Hi everyone, this is Mindy. Welcome to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to do the Eclipse technique, and I will be using the brand new Hero Arts Hero Studio products. If you're not familiar with the Eclipse technique, it's pretty much where you have a stamped background or a stencil background, and you're die cutting a shape, or in my case, I have some stamped words that I'm going to die cut out of that background. So it still looks like it's all a part of the same design, but we are going to pop it up to give it lift and dimension and just makes a very unique and fun look to your card projects. I will have all of the supplies I'm using today linked down below in the video description and over on my blog. Here is the main stamp set that I'm going to be using today. This is a Heroscape. It is a part of the card kit of the month from Hero Arts for July 2025. I am absolutely fascinated with the Heroscapes. It also has in the card kit coordinating dies so you can die cut out your scene and your sentiments. And then it also has standalone dies, and there's a lot of standalone dies in here. What it essentially creates is like the dashboard of a car, steering wheel, and then also if you could have like your feet propped up on the dashboard, just kind of chilling. I'm also going to be using the clear stamp and die of the month from Hero Arts for July 2025. I really loved this design of having that large sentiment and then a stamped shadow layer underneath. I'm starting with a piece of white cardstock cut to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I'm going to start in the landscape orientation. I will be using my Stampwheel 2.0 for this, mainly because it has the sticky mat there, just to kind of help keep my cardstock in place. And I'm going to start with the first layer of this Heroscape, which is going to be the sky. I stamped it first in a light blue. This happens to be, I believe, a dusty blue from Hero Arts. And a lot of times I'm going to stamp it twice. There's a lot of stamp here, a lot of polymer. So I want to make sure I'm getting a really good impression of it. But I want to step that background up just a little bit as far as the sky. I'm going to come in with, I think this was summer sky, and I'm inking up just kind of the top half of the sky using the edge of my ink pad. And then I help smooth out that transition using a blending brush, just kind of tapping it on the stamp to pick up some of that excess ink. This is just a fun way to add multiple colors to your stamp images if you only have one stamp. Now I'm going to bring in spicy mustard and the next layer of the Heroscape. This is going to be the base layer of our mountains in the background. Now they can be mountains, they can be like desert hills, they can be greenery. I actually have two versions that I'm going to create here for you. So first I have kind of this like Phoenix, Arizona type of vibe going on here. I did stamp that twice as well. And if you are seeing you're not getting complete perfect coverage, it's okay. It is going to smooth out as it dries. And I have more layers to add on top. Now, the next one is the road. You can see we have the winding road. I did first in granite, and then I went around the edges of the road with intensified black, again, tapping off any of the excess ink with my blending brush. And I was really going for this kind of postcard artistic look, so it doesn't have to look completely stamped perfectly. The next layer is going to be adding some details to my mountains in the background. That I did with pumpkin ink. And then the last layer that fits down at the bottom of the mountains is going to be I started with crimson and then I re inked it with cranberry, which was a beautiful color combination with these three. And as I showed earlier, there are coordinating dies to die cut this out. You can die cut out your mountains, but I really love that kind of sketchy look at the top of it. I do trim the panel down, but I'm going to leave that as kind of that sketchy artistic look. Now, I did clean off all of my stamps using my Hero Arts stamp cleaner, and I'm going to go through all of the layers again just to build up my scene. Now, for the sky, I did do the same colors as before, but I added a third one at the very top, which is indigo. It was super juicy, so I tapped off a lot of that excess ink, but wow, the color looks amazing. Now, for this one, I am going for more of the green field. So, this is kind of more my landscape, adding that light green. I apologize, I don't remember the exact greens I used. It might have been kiwi, fresh lawn, and pine, is possibly what I used out of the Hero Arts collection. Absolutely dreamy backgrounds, right? Now, also on that stamp set are these like postage type of images. And I just picked out a bunch of them. There's two of them. One is like circle, one is a square. It also has the cancellation and then the sending sentiment because I am going to be doing the word big hugs. So I stamped those out. Now, the way I'm going to be doing these cards, you want to make sure your backgrounds are completely dry. So I did hit them with my heat tool really quick. You can test your ink by just sprinkling on embossing powder and tapping it off. If it slides right off, your background is dry. If it sticks a little bit, you still have some dry time there. Now I'm placing this in my Misty stamping tool and I'm lining up the word big hugs. And I'm going to place that kind of right in the middle of my scene. I'm going to condition this with an anti-static powder tool. And then I am going to ink this up with white pigment ink. Now, the reason I chose white pigment ink is because, for one, it's my favorite way to do any white heat embossing. I have a lot of color, a lot of dark color behind this, and I didn't want any of that to show through. I didn't even want to give it a chance. So I am inking this up 3 times to really get a lot of white ink on that sentiment. I'm stamping it 3 times, and then I'm going to take that over and sprinkle on white embossing powder. This works fantastic. Even when you don't have a colored background like this trick just always works for me. So I am melting my embossing powder with my heat tool, and that stands out really nice. But we do have that shadow underneath, and I thought this looked really fun for kind of like a postcard you would get out of a gift shop if you're traveling. So I lined that up as best as I could, and I'm inking it up with the intensified black ink. Now, essentially, this shadow kind of overlaps the outline of the word big hugs a little bit. And I knew that going in, but I was trying it this way first. I stamped it. Actually, I think I stamped it twice. And then I'm going to take a Q-tip and I'm trying to wipe away that excess ink that is on my embossed sentiment. Didn't quite work as well. I didn't want to just wipe it because I didn't want to smear it, but it did taint the embossing powder a little bit. So I'm just going to dry that and I'm going to move on to the next one. I do plan on restamping this. So I will show you all of that in just a moment. I brought in my other background and this time I started with the black outline since I already had it in there. I did the black outline again with the intensified black. Be sure that this is dried completely. You can do that embossing powder test, but just make sure that that black ink is completely dry. Then I shifted that down to the bottom of my Misty, prepped the cardstock with an anti-static powder tool, and again, I am stamping the Big Hugs outline with the white pigment ink and stamping it 3 times to really get that good coverage. Now, the reason I did it this way is so that I don't have that overlapping black on top of my melted embossing powder. And I think this worked out pretty good. You just really need to make sure you're giving your ink time to dry. So I'm sprinkling on that white embossing powder again, tapping off the excess, and then melting that embossing powder. And I think it turned out fantastic. I was super excited that this worked. Now, I did give my first one time to dry. I'm prepping that again with the anti-static powder tool, inking up my sentiment, and only going to stamp this once. I really just had small areas that were slightly tainted with that black ink. So I can then sprinkle on the embossing powder for this one, melt it, and this one came out really good as well. If you do ever have white speckles on your black ink, you can just dust that away with a small paintbrush. You could stamp the big hugs and shadow layer on white cardstock, die cut it, and add it to the front, but I didn't want to hide that gorgeous background, so I thought this would be a really great compromise. I lined up that coordinating die over the word big hugs. I'm holding it down with a low tack tape, and then I'm going to run this through my intricate die cut machine to die cut it out, but I'm saving both pieces. And then I'll repeat that step on my other background. I did also cut out about maybe 6 more out of just white cardstock. Then for the panels that have that background down there, I am going to place down this is like a stitched rectangle die that matches with the Postage collection from Spellbinders. I did not see the Postage die set on the Hero Arts website, so I'm using the Spellbinders one. And it has these stitched rectangles that match the Postage. So I die cut my panels out of both of those out of that stitched rectangle. And then I do have a background piece die cut from some Spellbinders cardstock that I'll show in just a minute. Here I am layering it up. Now this is where the eclipse technique comes in is you want to build that dimension so it's really kind of popping out at you like like 3D glasses, I guess would kind of be how I look at it. I actually wish I would have layered them up a little bit more. I'm adding tape runner to the back of my stamped panel, and I'm adding that to a piece of white cardstock that's trimmed just a little bit smaller than this panel because I don't want the dark cardstock that I die cut the postage from to show behind there. I added liquid glue behind my big hugs sentiment and added that right in that what do we want to call it, negative space. Then I can take that whole panel and add it to my postage piece that I die cut. I think this was cinnamon cardstock from Spellbinders. I did the exact same thing for my green background or my grassy field background. This one I did a light blue. Again, I will have all of the supplies linked down below in the video description. So I did that with a light blue. Quite honestly, I kind of wish I would have gone with just a little bit more of a darker blue there. Then I'm adding the word sending. Did that kind of tilted, which I thought was a really fun look. And then I die cut out that cancellation and that postage mark. So I love that there's coordinating dies for this. And that I just added with a tape runner. But the circle piece, I did some circle foam dots. I absolutely love how these came out. I think it just really gives kind of that traveling, touristy vibe, but you don't have to die cut the panel out at all. You could just stamp it, leave it as is. I just thought adding that postage edge to each card front really kind of tied into the theme. So again, this is using the Hero Arts Card Kit of the Month and Clear Stamp and Die of the Month from July 2025. The other subscriptions are also available now if you haven't signed up yet, or if you just love everything like I usually do, you can sign up for the Hero Studio and get a free bonus item. Thank you all so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed seeing this technique in action and will give it a try yourself. And here is another video that I think you might enjoy.